Newly elected French President Emmanuel Macron is set to visit Africa this week. His first stop is Mali. Macron is expected to meet with French troops fighting militancy in the Sahel region. At least 3,000 French soldiers are stationed in the West African country under the Operation Barkhane mission, which began in 2013. It's not clear yet whether Macron will be meeting any officials from the Malian government during his trip. His predecessor, Francois Hollande, was in Mali in January this year for a security summit in the capital, Bamako. Well, now joining me live now from the French capital in Paris is CGTN's Elena Casas. Elena, it's Macron's first trip to Africa as French president. Why exactly has he chosen Mali?
Well, he made it a promise throughout his campaign that his first trip abroad, he said, would be to show his solidarity with French troops fighting in North Africa. Of course, this isn't actually his first trip abroad. He went to see Angela Merkel in Berlin last night. But it's extremely symbolic for Emmanuel Macron that he takes this opportunity very early in his presidency to show his support for those soldiers. On his day of inauguration on Sunday, he met soldiers who had fought and been injured in Mali, and he's very keen to show support for these soldiers and for this intervention because it is controversial here in France. Some of the candidates running up against him for the presidency said that they wanted to end Operation Barkhane, which, as you said, has been in place since January 2013, when Francois Hollande decided to send in French troops to try and force out the Islamist groups that had taken control of a number of cities in the north of Mali. They were largely successful in that endeavour, but they haven't been successful in bringing longer-term stability to the north of Mali. There are about 4,000 French troops on the ground at the moment that are trying to combat people smuggling, drug smuggling, and of course jihadi groups that are still present in the Sahel desert. But despite their being there, the experts in the region say that there's more insecurity even than there was 4 or 5 years ago. So the operation is controversial, it has been expensive, but by going here so early in his presidency, we can see that Emmanuel Macron wants to make a statement and he wants to show that France is going to continue its commitments in North Africa.
Now, you did mention insecurity there, Elena. It does still remain a threat in that part of Africa, particularly in the northern region of the country. Has the president outlined a strategy on how he's going to control the insurgency?
Well, we don't yet know what Macron's North Africa policy will be. He isn't himself a foreign policy expert, he's more of an economist, so he's going to take advice on this subject from the people around him. It's perhaps important to know that the man who designed Francois Hollande's North Africa policy, the outgoing Defence Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian, is also very close to Emmanuel Macron. He was one of the first socialist politicians to support him. So I don't think we can expect a radical change in tone from the new French presidency. But there are a lot of questions about how effective these thousands of French troops really are on the ground, despite being very expensive, both financially and, of course, in terms of troops. 19 French soldiers have died there since the beginning of this operation in 2013. But the area remains very insecure, and many experts would say that what's really needed is a political solution, while there's a total power vacuum in northern Mali, which is, of course, a desert which is extremely difficult to police and monitor for French soldiers who don't necessarily know the region very well, and the Malian troops that they're working with aren't always reliable. So it is a difficult logistical challenge for French troops on the ground. Macron going there clearly shows that he wants to support them and that he wants to continue this French involvement in North Africa. But whether or not this security-only solution can really change the security problem in the long term without being accompanied by a political solution for northern Mali is an open question.
All right, Elena, thank you very much for that insight. CGTN's Elena Casas joining us live from Paris in France ahead of French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to Mali.